Neil Irwin, why do you refer to the three central bankers, Bernanke, King, and Trichet, as the alchemists?
You know, Greg, hundreds of years ago, you had alchemists who were these guys who tried to create gold out of thin air and out of routine materials. Really, central banks are exactly that. It's this remarkable power to turn paper, to turn electronic keyboard taps into money, into resources. And in our current modern society, it's Jean-Claude Trichet in Europe until he retired, Mervyn King at the Bank of England, and of course Ben Bernanke, who are actually doing that for the major Western economies.
All right, let's start with Mervyn King. Great Britain's economy has been troublesome, to say the least. What have been his biggest mistakes, and what will his legacy be when he retires this summer?
You know, I think he gets a significant part of the blame for Britain's really stagnant economy. Really, we've had no growth in Britain for about 3 years now. You know, he was early and aggressive in pushing for austerity in Britain in late 2009, early 2010. During that election campaign of early 2010, he was beating the drum saying, it's time to have tighter fiscal policy now. That seems to have been a mistake. They might have moved too far too fast, reducing deficits.
Meanwhile, there are endless troubles in Europe, although it seems like Mario Draghi, the current central banker of Europe, has a better handle on it than his predecessor Trichet. Tell me why.
You know, I think part of it is that Draghi's been a remarkably skilled diplomat. He's created a set of resources to try and deal with Europe's crisis that are up to the scale of the problem. So he created almost €1 trillion, I think more than €1 trillion, in the LTRO, which was a bank bailout. He did a giant OMT, which is open-ended, hasn't actually come into effect yet, but it's standing saying we'll do whatever it takes to hold Europe together. Trichet was much more limited to tactical kind of small bore stuff to try and keep Europe together. It turns out that was a big enough problem you needed a big guns in response.
And do you think that he will be successful, Draghi?
I think he is. You know, the thing is, the question is, at what point do the politics break down? You have the Greek, Spanish, some of these economies are in such terrible shape. At some point, do the politics change and you have a real desire to leave the Eurozone? As long as that avoids, I think on the economic side, I think they have the resources they need in place.
All right. Well, the third alchemist, Ben Bernanke. Now, the big worry in America is whether or not Ben Bernanke can take all the money out that he put into the system. So is he over his skis right now? Is he biting off more than he can chew?
So look, the one thing I think central banks know how to do, it's if there's an inflation problem, how to tighten the money supply. The Fed, if we get an environment where we're getting 3, 4, 5% inflation, I guarantee you the Fed will be raising interest rates, selling off all these assets acquired during QE, and doing it if that's what it takes. I'm less worried about the exit than some people are. That said, there's a lot we don't know about how QE works. So I acknowledge there's some uncertainty around doing all these new bold things that Bernanke has done. I just have pretty good confidence that they can actually get out of it when the time comes.
And then finally, do these alchemists, do these central bankers have too much power? There was an article recently by David Stockman saying that they should really get out of the way because they're not elected and they're doing things that people don't know what they're doing and whether or not they'll work. What's your view? Too powerful?
So look, I'm the first to concede there's a troubling aspect of these unelected guys who meet in these secret rooms and deploy billions and trillions of dollars that are ultimately taxpayer resources. That is troubling for anybody who cares about democracy, transparency, all that good stuff. At the same time, these are the people who have had the ability to respond on a scale and with a speed that matches the problems that we've been facing the last 6 years in the global economy. And I think having that backstop in place is important. I'd love to have elected officials who could also respond to what the world needed with that kind of speed. That's not the world we're living in. That being the case, the central bankers are the next best option.